In 1953, Marilyn Monroe cemented her status as a post-war Hollywood icon when she starred in the 20th Century Fox musical Gentlemen Prefer Blondes alongside Jane Russell. The "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend" scene became her signature moment and confirmed the strength of movie musicals and the classic studio system. In the 1960s, Elizabeth Montgomery became one of the most recognizable faces on American TV with Bewitched, which aired from 1964 to 1972. Moving between films and made-for-TV movies, her image grew alongside the rise of major networks and the expanding pop culture landscape of television, paving lasting space for female leads. If you love diving into the stories behind classic TV icons like Elizabeth Montgomery, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In 1943, during the United States' full mobilization for World War II, Penn Station in New York served as a major passageway for troops and civilians. On the platforms, constant farewells marked the separation between soldiers and their families, while the railroad supported the war effort by moving people and resources. In 1995, in a Hollywood reshaped by big box office comedies and blockbuster franchises, Cameron Diaz solidified her transition from model to actress. That year, she expanded her roles and visibility, becoming one of the standout faces of her generation and securing her place in an industry undergoing transformation driven by celebrity marketing. In 1947, in the post-World War II period, Danish explorer Peter Freuchen, born in 1886, began a new journey with his third wife, illustrator Dagmar Kohn. Their travels renewed scientific interest in the Arctic and in Greenland, regions where he had lived among Inuit communities since the early 20th century. In 1941, in Canada, Veronica Foster, a young worker at the John Inglis factory, was photographed while assembling a Bren machine gun. Used in mobilization campaigns, the image symbolized the massive arrival of women into factories and the Allied civilian effort during World War II from 1939 to 1945. Christine Margaret Keeler, an English model and topless dancer, ended up at the center of the Profumo scandal. In 1961, she was simultaneously involved with John Profumo, the Secretary of State for War, and with Soviet naval attaché Yevgeny Ivanov, raising security alarms in the middle of the Cold War and shaking the British conservative government. On December 17, 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, Orville and Wilbur Wright managed to take off with the first powered, controlled, heavier-than-air airplane. The flight crowned years of glider tests and marked the beginning of modern aviation, amid disputes over inventions and patents in the early 20th century. Around 1900, Old San Juan in Puerto Rico was a fortified center, surrounded by walls and by the El Morro and San Cristobal bastions. After 1898, under U.S. rule, it kept its Spanish layout, cobblestone streets, and balcony-lined houses, bringing together an active port, Creole traditions, and Catholic devotions. In 1881, the Statue of Liberty was taking shape in Paris, in the Gaget, Gautier, and C workshops, where copper plates were molded over a wrought-iron structure by Gustave Eiffel. Designed by Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi for the United States, it celebrated the centennial of independence and the growing French-American friendship. In the 1960s, with TV spreading around the world and pop entertainment booming, Raquel Welch expanded her work. She sang, appeared in musical TV specials, and posed as a model. This phase shows how her versatility and constant reinvention projected her image to an international audience. Joe Black Fox, also known as Chief Joe Black Fox, was a Sioux chief and artist who, in 1898, joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West, a traveling show that reenacted life on the frontier. His participation shows how indigenous leaders, under pressure to assimilate, sought income, visibility, and ways to preserve collective memory. On June 16, 1963, Valentina Tereshkova made history by becoming the first woman to travel into space, piloting the Vostok 6 capsule for almost 3 days. At the height of the Cold War and the space race, her mission boosted Soviet prestige and opened the door for other women in space exploration. In the 1940s, Halloween gained strength in neighborhoods across the United States, already marked by the trick-or-treat tradition. During wartime and rationing, costumes were improvised, and many children walked around with grotesque papier-mâché or rubber masks, mixing local folklore with a dark humor typical of the period. In 1954, Janet Leigh was living a decisive moment within Hollywood's studio system. Under contract and married to Tony Curtis, she moved between epics like The Black Shield of Falworth and the noir Rogue Cop. With TV expanding, she began alternating between films and TV anthologies, solidifying her presence in both formats. Around 1914, on the eve of World War I, Alexandra Fyodorovna posed to have her effigy molded in clay. Empress and wife of Nicholas II, she gained a reputation as a distant figure for interfering in politics when the Tsar was absent and embracing Rasputin's influence, while the empire neared collapse. In 1942, in the middle of World War II, 16-year-old Princess Elizabeth was named Honorary Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, a traditional British regiment. The gesture reinforced the Crown's image as a link to the armed forces and brought the heir into the rituals that boosted morale and encouraged new recruits. In the 1950s, amid post-war optimism and the suburban boom, magazines and fairs showcased models of the automated home of the future. The lawn became part of this display. Concepts for autonomous lawnmowers guided by radio or cables appeared, announcing the domestic automation still to come. Barbara Eden began her artistic career in the 1950s, performing on stage and taking small roles in film and television at a time when TV was gaining ground in post-war America. In the following decade, by playing Jeannie in I Dream of Jeannie, she became a familiar face and a lasting reference in TV comedy. If you enjoy discovering the stories behind iconic TV careers like Barbara Eden's, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In May 1944, as D-Day approached, Princess Elizabeth visited a British air base to observe preparations for airborne troops. She watched parachute jumps and simulated maneuvers in a public act that reinforced the Crown's presence and offered visible support to the Allied war effort. In the image, Queen Victoria is seated while behind her stand the Indian attendants Mustafa and Chitta in uniform and covered with medals. The composition reinforces the imperial hierarchy and the way that, after 1876, subjects of the Raj were symbolically incorporated into the ceremonial splendor of the British court of the time. In September 1940, at the start of the Blitz, members of the ATS, wearing dark glasses, watched the sky from an anti-aircraft battery in London. In front of them, the rangefinder guided the firing of the guns, showing the growing role of women in Britain's air defense against the Luftwaffe in the European Second World War. Presented at the 1956 Motorama, the Pontiac Club de Mer appeared as a prototype two-seat sports car from Pontiac. In the jet age, it featured a fiberglass body shaped like a projectile, an extremely low profile, and smooth, continuous lines, expressing Detroit's desire for speed, lightness, and bold design. On May 6, 1937, the Hindenburg disaster, involving the German passenger airship, marked the collapse of the era of the Great Zeppelins. Filled with flammable hydrogen, it crossed prestigious transatlantic routes of the Nazi regime until it caught fire while trying to dock in Lakehurst, with live coverage shocking the world. On August 9, 1902, the coronation of Edward VII at Westminster Abbey marked the shift from the Victorian period to the Edwardian era. As King of the United Kingdom, the British Dominions, and Emperor of India, he assumed a vast empire. The ceremony reaffirmed imperial unity and aimed to symbolize reconciliation after the Boer War. Anita Ekberg, a Swedish actress and model, won Miss Sweden in 1950 and quickly caught the attention of producers. From Hollywood, she moved to Rome and fully entered the world of Cinecittà. In 1960, her appearance in the Trevi Fountain in La Dolce Vita became a symbol of celebrity culture and the post-war European boom. In 1945, the young Princess Elizabeth joined the British Auxiliary Territorial Service and traded royal halls for the workshop. There she learned mechanics, drove ambulances, and supported units in the United Kingdom. Her work became a symbol of women's mobilization and strengthened the monarchy's connection to the war effort. In the 1950s, London experienced repeated smog spikes that culminated in the Great Smog of 1952. The mix of coal smoke from factories and fireplaces combined with a thermal inversion shut down the city and killed thousands of people. The disaster led to the Clean Air Act of 1956 and changed how the country used fuel. France, 1916. Near the Western Front, British soldiers put together a soccer team and posed for the camera wearing gas masks. After the chemical attacks that began in 1915, the equipment became part of daily life in the trenches. On the field, though, its use was mostly symbolic, since it made breathing and seeing difficult. The image shows Winona Ryder in 1988 on the set of Heathers, a dark teen comedy that marked the end of the decade. In the post-Reagan atmosphere and under strong influence from MTV culture, the film pokes fun at the school hierarchies of the time. By playing Veronica, Ryder established herself as a face of a new generation rising in Hollywood. On May 21, 1922, in Washington, the National Woman's Party organized a new demonstration. 2 years after the 19th Amendment guaranteed women's right to vote, the group kept pushing for equal rights in law and in the workplace, keeping the momentum of their recent victories alive. It showed that winning the vote was only the beginning.